Well, thank you, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The greatness of this gathering is not simply the numbers of men and women gathered here tonight. It's the fact that I believe that you represent the greatness of our country. There is no brotherhood or sisterhood in America stronger than the brotherhood that is forged by fire on the fire grounds across this country. And on behalf of the United States Congress, Republican and Democrat administration, let me thank you for the service that you give our country every day. This is a great gathering. I'm humbled and honored to be here. And I certainly would not be here, nor would any of us be here, without the person who had the vision and the persistence and the dedication to bring this great group together so many years ago. So let me begin by acknowledging my friend, our mentor in this process, the great visionary who made this institute and caucus possible, Curt Weldon. Curt, thank you so very much for what you've done. Curt is living proof that you do not have to hold a public office to be a public servant. He held public office for a very long time, not long enough as far as I'm concerned, but he is a public servant to this day, and believe me, without his continued inspiration, we would not be here. I was also honored to be in the presence of the chaplain of the House of Representatives, Father Dan. Father Dan celebrated his 50th year in the priesthood this year, the last 10 of which he spent in the House of Representatives. And I always tell him that those 10 years means he's been exposed to more sinners in the history of anyone else in the priesthood. And he doesn't disagree with me. I was saying to some of my friends at the dinner table tonight that they asked me how many dinners like this I go to in the course of the year. And I said, none like this. Because I had been seated at our dinner table for nearly 45 minutes, and no one had yet asked me whether I was a Republican or a Democrat, nor did anyone know or care. You usually can't be anywhere for 45 seconds in Washington before someone either knows you're a Democrat or a Republican or is accusing you of being one or the other. And it got me to thinking that, I love our country. I certainly would not want to live anywhere else but here. And the measure of how great our country is that in many countries in the world, one of their biggest challenges is figuring how to keep people in who want to get out. And one of our greatest challenges is figuring how to keep people out who want to get in. It tells you a lot about how great this country is, but as great as we are, and as much as we love our country, if you love something, you're willing to point out its imperfections. And those of us who love our country, and I know everyone tonight here does, are willing to think about and point out our imperfections. I guess as a member of Congress, I'm one of them. But I got to thinking that how much greater would America be if America ran like a fire company does? Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that a great country needs an educational system, and so does a fire company. And when you educate young firefighters, some of them 16 years old, some of you were, I know, the very first day you were able under the law of your state to join, you did. How do we educate young firefighters? Well, what we do is educate them carefully and methodically, but we make sure they get exposed to all aspects of the work. I'll bet you that those of you that have been in the fire service for all those years have done everything from learn the most sophisticated life-saving techniques to clean the lavatory floors after someone had their wedding reception at the fire hall. To do a job well, you have to do every aspect of the job. You have to master every part of it. And I wish that if America were like a fire company, we'd run our schools more like that. That every one of our students would learn every aspect of life in our country. If America ran more like a fire company, yes, there would be an important core of duties that you have to perform, but we'd all go well beyond that core of duties. To do things we're not paid for, to do things that are not in the budget, to do things that are not in any legal contract. I always remember Kurt Weldon saying from this podium every year that you, ladies and gentlemen, are the ones who coach the Little League teams, serve in the VFWs and the American Legions, volunteer for the blood drives, first ones to show up when there's a tragedy in the community. Did I get that list right, Kurt? Because I've heard you recite it year after year. You serve on the boards of education. How much better would America be if more people were willing to say, well, that's not in my job description, but I'll do it anyway. It's not something I'm contracted to do, but I'll step forward because my community needs me. And that's something you do every single day. If America were run more like a fire company, yes, there would be disputes. People, this will shock you, but people would not always agree on everything all the time. And I know that when you get behind closed doors and you have a meeting, that there are intense arguments, passionate arguments about what the rules ought to be, maybe who should be elected to lead your company, maybe what the position should be on an important issue in your city or your community. And I know that sometimes voices are raised in those discussions, and sometimes people leave with their feelings hurt. But I know what happens when the door opens. No matter where you were, yes or no, pro or con, no matter who you voted for, whether your candidate won or lost, when the door opens and you come out of the room, you are united. Because you're united by a purpose higher than whatever was being argued about and fought about and discussed in that room. If America were more like a fire company, we'd leave more of our disputes behind and go to higher and better ground on issues ahead the way you do.